All right, guys, I made it to DC, and we're going to be here at One More Page Books today for the Reign of the Fallen launch party with Sarah Glen Marsh, and we're also doing an interview, which I will link up above if you haven't seen that already. I'm super excited to be here. Here you've got the infamous skull. Got a great turnout. Such a cute little bookstore. There's Sarah in her beautiful book dress. Oh my gosh, look how cute. They're little cake pop balls shaped like a skull. Check it out, you guys. We've got treats, lots and lots of coffee, and here's where you can get tiaras. And I can't even!
Reign of the Fallen is a very dark story in a deceptively pink and sparkly package. So it's about like death and murder and grief and addiction. It is also super gay. And yeah, this is the story of Odessa. She is a necromancer. She basically keeps this dead king in power. Well, he's undead. He's undead. She's keeping him in power by raising him from the dead, and their society, the dead people, they fear change, and since they're in charge, they've outlawed all sorts of change. So no recipes, no new fashions, no new dances. Everything's really stagnant. Yeah. No cures for terrible diseases. And Odessa basically has to decide if she's gonna continue to help keep this guy in power or let their society basically be destroyed.
So, was there any difference in your writing process in writing Reign versus Fear?
For sure. So with Fear the Drowning Deep, I was writing a lot of things about a lot of things I love. Like I love the ocean, I love mythology, monsters, folklore, and so it was definitely a passion project. Like it was something I had a lot of fun with. But with Reign, I just felt like it came from such a more emotionally honest place. And so that was different. I felt like the writing process was more raw. And I don't know if that's because I was using like first person present tense, and so I was really in the character's head at all times, but I just think overall it was like a more emotionally honest book, so I feel this like more emotional bond with it, I guess. Also, I think I wrote this in about 2 months, but with this one, I did world building for months and months first. World building and plotting, so I had this idea and carried it for a really long time before I actually wrote it.
So you did a lot of world building for this one. Are you typically a plotter, or you normally go like, well, the characters are going this way and that's where we're going?
Well, so that's kind of changed. So how I started out was I was a pantser, and I really loved to just discover everything about the story and the world and the characters along with them, because for me that was like the magic of writing, right? But with Reign, I went into it with a couple of specific ideas. I had a couple of specific plot points in mind, but still, for the most part, I kind of pantsed it. And then things kind of changed with the sequel because I was writing it under contract, and I had given a synopsis to my publisher, right? So I had certain things I was trying to do, and I did plotting for the first time in my life. I used an index card system, and I wrote down like every scene, every like turning point for different characters, everything I wanted to happen with all the subplots. And I spread them all out on our dining room table, and I made a giant story map. But yeah, so with that one, I did plotting, and I love it. And now I'm a convert. Plotting is cool. It makes editing easier, for what it's worth. I'm trying not to base them on real people. So if you piss me off, I will probably not kill you in a book. I know there's that saying, careful, you'll end up in my novel. They're all from my head for the most part. There's a couple of like different experiences that I put into the characters' backstories that are things that have happened to people that I know. So in Reign of the Fallen, there's a couple of mentions of these crazy daredevil stunts that Evander does. So those are things my husband did, like running down a big hill and like breaking a limb or something. I forget what he did, but anyway, crazy stuff. I based that on his mishaps.
Which of your characters do you identify with the most, and why?
Okay, that's hard because little pieces of all of them. One character I identify a lot with is Simeon in the book. So he is one of Odessa's necromancer friends he's always joking. So like even when things are serious, which is totally me, I like to make situations weird and awkward and bring the humor. because life's too short not to, and I love pranks, I love practical jokes and all that, so definitely Simeon. Also Evander, who is Odessa's boyfriend at the beginning of the book. He has a lot of big dreams, and he's like a hopeless romantic, and he like wants adventure, and those are all things that I love, so I also identify with him a lot.
So what would you say is the most challenging part about being an author, as wonderful as this all is? We all know there's some ups and downs of it, so what is the most difficult?
Like several.
Okay,
Okay,
so
so
crushing readers' hearts one of them?
no, that's the fun part. I do, you know, flavor my coffee with your tears. So it's not bad, but I guess most difficult parts. So definitely, you know, having to have a routine, being productive every day, that pressure to like, you know, produce and everything, that can be challenging. It's really important to set a good routine, and so I have a routine that I try to stick to. I have a certain spot where I write. I limit distractions, and then as far as like motivation, the self-doubt, I get in my own way a lot. So you know, once you've written and published a book, you know that certain things are going to change, and it can definitely be hard to like draft and turn off your internal editor. I think that's probably hard for everyone, but that's definitely one that I struggle with all the time. I'm bad, and like I know some people do like drafts and then they like revise. And when I was drafting Rain, the 2-month process, I was editing as I went. So what I queried of the book, what I showed to agents was one draft, but it was where I had gone back and edited chapter by chapter as I was writing. I'm a perfectionist and I can't leave it alone. And I know there's lots of writing advice that you're supposed to leave it alone and just write it. Do what works for you. I just fix it as I go so that I don't hate what I'm doing. I mean, yeah.
What kind of research, if any, did you have to do for Rain while you were writing?
So I did do a lot of research for Rain because I did a lot of world building. So one thing in the book, the dead people, so they have the Deadlands, it's like the spirit world, and from there they can send messages to the living world with flowers. So what I did was I researched the Victorian language of flowers, and I have like pages and pages in my binder about that. It was super interesting. For my first book, how long before, like, what color do someone's eyes turn when they've been in the water a long time, like a body? That was not for this one. Well, a lot of it was just me inventing. Oh, I researched how different cultures around the world view death, and what their rituals around death are, and that was really fun. That was a lot of my research. Read about some really cool things, and you'll see a few of them represented in the culture in Carthia. I was trying to take lots of things from all over our world to put them in the book.
What would you say are your easiest and most difficult scenes to write?
Start with most difficult. Let's just get the painful part out of the way. I think most difficult to write for, I want to say like action scenes. It's very hard for me. I have like a squirrel brain to keep track of like where everybody is all the time, you know? So that was really difficult, and that definitely showed in edits. My editor kicked my butt about like going back and looking at the action scenes and tracking where everybody is all the time. So I think those are hard. Because, oh my gosh, in this one draft, there's a scene where the necromancers they're fighting some rogue necromancers, these bad people. And I had Simeon fighting 2 different people at the same time. He was doing 2 completely different things, and I was like, how did this get this far? And I thought in my brain that was okay, but anyway.
Maybe with like 2 hands.
So yeah, I think action is hard, and then as far as stuff that's easier or that I like the romance stuff. I like the kissy scenes.
She's the best at kissy scenes.
Those are interesting to me, so yeah.
Her first couple that she shipped or liked.
Okay, so we're gonna have to go back to like Harry Potter or something.
Let's go back.
Have to go way back. Man, I don't know if this is like an unpopular opinion, but I really felt like Harry and Hermione should.
Yes.
Thank you. We can stay
It
friends.
makes
It's
so
okay.
much sense. I mean, maybe that's just me, but I mean, I also would ship like a Harry Draco, like, you know. But that's not canon, so just Harry and Hermione, I guess. Yeah.
So you're like fan of like the Harry Draco like fan fiction?
Yes. Among others.
Have you written any? Do we have to look it up?
Lucius and Sirius.
You can quote me on that.
I know it's not on the internet. Girl, it's not on the internet.
If your main characters had YouTube channels, what kind of channels would they have?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, that's kind of a thinky question. So you help me and we'll puzzle this out together. Well, the first one that popped into my head though is like Simeon and Jax would totally have some kind of buddy comedy show, like Good Mythical Morning, like Rhett and Link.
I just feel like Jackson would have like a channel where he just blow things up.
Yes.
He would say all the different ways this can blow up. Let's
Okay.
try.
Yes, he
I
would.
really feel like that's his calling.
Yes, he would. Okay, that's fair. Yeah. I can see
Okay,
this.
so then Mary.
Mary. Ooh, well, obviously she loves animals, and one of my favorite YouTubers is Taylor Nicole Dean, who has all sorts of exotic pets. Mary would have a channel just like that. Taylor has a new pet every week. She shows you how to care for different animals. That's what Mary would be doing. Because Mary, I almost think would have some kind of like a beauty blog or something.
Oh,
you know what I
yes,
mean?
yes.
Did you see that?
Yes.
But Jess is hard. I don't know. But you know, she loves coffee. Maybe she would have some sort of.
I feel like she would do like
cooking show?
I feel like she'd do like a vlogger person where she would
Yes.
drink tea and she's like, so this is how my day
Oh,
went.
she would do story time. she would have the story time video. Yeah.
Is there anything
Sure.
in particular when you're writing that you need with you? Like I need tea at all times.
Yeah, a beverage. I need a beverage at all times, and then I like to write while I'm looking at my fish tank, which like distracts me a ton, but I love it. I have this giant eel thing that eats the other fish. I named him Stephen Avery, and he has his own little cave. And yeah, I just love to watch.
Sarah's other dream is to own a zoo. So
Yes.
if you follow her on Instagram, you'll see all her growing family members. They're
Yeah.
birds,
Birds,
reptiles.
dogs. I would like a snake. I'd be open to a snake. I don't think Chris is open to a snake, but I'm open.
We'll convince him.
How do you approach world building? How do you take what you've learned when you're researching and then put it into the text?
That's a great question. So when I'm researching, I mean, I take notes. I take tons and tons of notes, and then what I'll do when I'm done is go back through and highlight things that I want to, incorporate. It can be tough to find like a place for those different cool things in the story. But I guess just as I'm drafting, I keep my notes, my binder with all my world building beside me, and as I was drafting Rain, I would actually look back through and pull things in.
You said you researched different kinds of death rituals around the world. Did any stand out to you?
One of my favorites, that's a great question, thank you. One of my favorites was about how there are certain cultures where when someone dies, they would make a doll of that person to carry around. And you'll find that in Rain.
Oh.
That one stuck out to me so much. I thought that was such a vivid detail because they would, put like as much detail as they could so that it really looked like that person. It was like this little reminder that children would have and carry around with them, and I thought that was really cool. So often in books we either see the YA heroines that are really beautiful and have really cool outfits, or we see ones that are hardcore badasses that don't wear a dress. So I don't really know how well I accessorized her with her sword, with her dress, but I just wanted to show that, as women, we can be really tough and be really strong and be warriors, but also wear cool outfits.
Example right here for all
I
of
mean,
you
if
to
you
see.
just pass me a knife, and I'll just, hold it right here.
This texture
But I think it was my doing that was all about like her fierceness and beauty, and that it's okay to have both of those things.
like Buffy.
Yes, like Buffy.
There was a question in the
I love
back.
Buffy.
Far back.
Is with the shrouds. How do they walk? Like if they have to cover everything, like how does that, this is like, as I was reading, this is what I kept
How much of it's on the
wondering.
page? It's a valid question. I mean, so I'm picturing that they had masks and protective footwear and like clingy leg wear, like wraps, and then their boots over it.
Okay.
So that it's not moving around. But I did kind of picture like the main thing, like a cloak or so, like something more billowy that's like over top of it.
Interesting. Okay, that makes a lot
really
of sense.
hot under there. I did add the detail that they have like herbs under there because their bodies like smell.
Right.
I thought that was kind of cool. I don't know. I just thought dead people would be really stinky, so they got like little bundles of stuff they like tuck in their clothes, so they don't smell up the place. They probably still do.
To me, characters don't smell, so I wouldn't even thought of that.
I mean, you gotta think about I like the smells, like the senses, the colors and smells, and yeah.
For writing this book,
Yeah.
did ideas come to you for a future book?
Absolutely. So
How did you keep them apart?
your question was, this is my amazing grandfather, and his question was so great that he broke the store. So when I was writing Rain, when I had ideas that were like other book ideas that weren't related to this, I have a folder on my laptop where I make a new Word document and I write down all my ideas for that thing and I put it away because I can't touch it while I'm working in this world. But when I was writing this one, I had a bunch of ideas for a sequel. Some of them were really out there, and some of them they all made it in though. All my zany ideas. I'm distracted by the strange people. Oh my God.
Are we on
This is the
fire?
part when we start having a rave to our doorbell.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Speaking of your sequel, you're working on it now, right?
Yes,
Can you tell
I am
us
working on my
a little
sequel.
bit about it.
Yeah, so in the sequel, you should expect to see not only like, you should expect to see all the old faces, even old faces that, you know, might surprise you in certain ways in how they appear, and you'll also see a lot of new faces, which I'm really excited about. Odessa gets a new companion, which I'm super excited about, and I really love that my agent and editor really enjoyed this new companion too. I actually kind of thought it was going to get axed. I thought it might be a little too out there for like fitting with Rain, but we made it work, and I'm so excited for everyone to meet this particular companion. And then my editor had me kind of work this companion in more into the story, and I mean, if you don't love this particular companion, I will take you to the doctor because something is wrong. Okay, so I'm hyped about this character. There's a lot more murder because
Sarah.
well, because so my editor was like, I was like, can I kill anyone off, right? In the second one. And she was like, you know what, Sarah, let's not. She was like, I think that they've been through enough. She was like, we don't have to kill anybody to still have a story. So I doubled down on like the murder. So there's a lot more death, and obviously you'll get to see some of the world outside of Carthia, which is where the story takes place. You'll see a little bit more of the world, but you'll also get to see the struggles that are kind of, that you might imagine at the end of book one. Certain things are going on, the kingdom is in upheaval, and you might expect that there's going to be a lot of fallout from that, and that things are going to be difficult for like leaders, hint hint, and so you'll see a lot of the struggles to maintain this kingdom as it starts to change for the first time in over 200 years.
So I was wondering what the cover design process was like and if you had any input in that.
So, so it's funny that you ask, because just yesterday I got an email with the rough cover for book 2, which I haven't told anyone because I've been busy getting ready for this. And I haven't even responded to it yet, but I love it. So anyway, with book 1, how I tend to look at my covers is I do this, and then I like slowly pull my hands apart. But when they sent it to me, it actually looked a lot like this already. So the designers, it's the folks that did the covers for the Red Queen series, and I love their style. So they designed this skull, and they were like, symbols are going to go in it. Do you have any input what the symbols should be? So I got to give a little input on that. I made a whole list of different things. For instance, swords, sparrows, because the main character's nickname is Sparrow, things like that. And so you can even see there's like bony hands in the bridge of the nose, which is really cool. But I sent them a list of symbols, and what really changed was the crown they originally had a bunch of red rubies. Well, nobody's eye color is, I don't think people have red, pure red, bright red. The crown they have on the cover, right, has different colored gemstones to match the different eye colors that people have. I had them change it to the right colors to match the crown, but honestly, like, the skull really hasn't changed.
Was it
They
always
had
pink?
this idea and ran with it. It was always on the pink, the first thing I saw. I think what I saw initially was some kind of a sketch laid over a piece of pink satin, like actual cloth, because I remember it was kind of wrinkly. It was interesting looking, but it was always on the pink. And then I found out, like, just a couple months before publication that it was going to be on the shimmery paper, which just, I love sparkle.
Do you want to tell them a little bit more about the magic system since we got on it?
Sure. In Reign of the Fallen, in the first book, you're introduced to 5 main eye colors, and when someone's born in their world, they have the ability to see a unique part of the world based on their eye color. So people with blue eyes see gateways to the spirit world. Nobody else can see that. And then people with green eyes see animals, emotions as colors. People with brown eyes see how the parts of things work together to make a whole. People with gray eyes see an aerial view of the sky. And then what color did I miss? Hazel. I missed the hazel people. So that one is they can see underneath the skin. They see ailments inside your body. And so those are the people who can become healers. Each eye color, what they see corresponds to the type of magic that they can do. I was trying to go for something that felt organic because something I don't like as a reader with fantasy is when there's say a magic amulet or something. And so I wanted it to feel more organic, so it comes from their eye color. They're born with their magic and it's something to do with their body, it's part of who they are.
Any advice for aspiring authors out there?
Yes. Okay, so how I learned to not suck at writing was by critiquing for others. And so not only would I critique for people who also write YA fantasy, but I would critique for people who write women's fiction or just whatever I could get my hands on, critique for people I don't know, and getting my own work critiqued, that's all well and good, and you can learn from that too. But me critiquing other people's work, I've learned how to identify problems in my own manuscript, and that is super helpful. Also seek community, because being a writer is isolating and challenging, and it is really important. There will be so many times that you'll have either bad news or good news, and nobody can celebrate with you the way that other authors can. So they understand the struggles, and they'll be there to support you. That's really important.